A Flash in the Dark, Chapter 23. Pain. Barry, Dr. Wells, he... Bet struggled to speak, but before she could finish, her head lolled to the side, and her eyes slipped closed. Barry felt tears stream down her face. She felt for a pulse and found nothing. She hung her head and pulled her mask back up. Then she noticed a deep purple glow spreading out from the bullet wound. She tapped her comm. "Barry, where's Bet? Is she okay?" Cisco's voice echoed through her ear. Barry shook her head. "No, Eileen killed her. She's glowing. She's gonna detonate," Barry managed, barely holding back her tears. There was a muffled curse and a gasp from the other end of the line. "A mass her size, the explosion would be..." Caitlin sounded scared, and Dr. Wells finished her thought for her. "Devastating." Caitlin's voice came back over the comms. "Barry, you need to get her away from the city," she ordered. Barry looked down at Bet's body. The glow was growing brighter. "There's no time." The splash of waves on the shore caught her attention. "Can I run on water? I built up enough speed to run up a glass building. How fast would I have to go to run on water?" Barry demanded. Cisco began to do calculations as Barry twitched. Too many people would die if Bet went off here. "Approximately 650 miles an hour." Dr. Wells beat Cisco to the answer. "You have to outrun the blast or you'll die too." Cisco's voice shook. Barry nodded to herself and carefully picked Bet up. Then she ran for everything she was worth. She made it about 2 miles out of the bay and dropped Bet, tears stinging her eyes. She turned and ran back to the shore. She heard the explosion behind her and ran faster, feeling the water lap at her heels. Just as she reached the shore, she slowed up and slipped. She managed to flip over mid-fall, so she was facing the water. She stared at the water that was still falling back into the bay from the explosion. Tears still ran down her face as she struggled back to her feet and raced back to Star Labs. Several hours later, Barry arrived at the West household. She'd made a decision after Bet had died. She wasn't going to lose anyone else like that. The one in the most danger right now was Iris. Barry opened the door and heard Iris call out from the table. "If you're here to do laundry, I already have a load in," Iris said, glancing up at Barry before looking back down at her laptop. Barry shook her head. "No, I was looking for you. We need to talk." Barry sat down and sighed as Iris closed her laptop. "I was working a case. Someone I thought I could help. I made friends with her, but she died," Barry admitted. "Barry, I'm so sorry." Iris reached out and took Barry's hand. Barry nodded, looking down at her lap. "I honestly didn't know her all that well, but it still hurts. But I know what it's like to lose family. Iris, writing about these things, it's dangerous. I don't want to see you get hurt," Barry said, running a hand through her hair. Iris huffed, frustrated. "And I want to know what's really going on with you. You've been lying to me, and I know it. You're keeping things from me. Tell me what's going on with you, Barry," Iris demanded. "I'm taking my dad's advice. I'm moving on, Iris. I ask that you do the same," Barry sighed. Iris slowly pulled her hand away. "That might have been how this started, but it's not what it's about for me anymore," Iris explained. Barry nodded down at her hands. She couldn't look at Iris and go through with her plan. "Maybe we shouldn't see each other for a while," she said, wishing she could take it back the moment the words were out of her mouth. Iris was silent as Barry stood and walked to the door. Barry really wanted to turn around and apologize, to beg for her sister's forgiveness, but she had to do this, to keep Iris safe. She stepped out of the door and closed it behind her as tears began to fall. Barry wasn't sure why she ended up back at the bar. It wasn't like she could get drunk anyway. Maybe she had come here because this was the last place she and Iris had been having fun, what felt like an eternity ago. It had only been 3 days. But so much had happened. She ordered another club soda as she saw Caitlin and Cisco approach almost tentatively. Hey guys, what are you doing here? She asked. Cisco hugged her. We figured you could use the company, he said. Caitlin nodded and ordered 2 shots. They sat on bar stools on either side of Barry. Their shots arrived, and Caitlin raised her glass. Tibet, the doctor said. Barry made to raise her club soda, but Caitlin shook her head and pulled out a capped vial out of her purse. I know normal alcohol doesn't affect you, but I distilled a highly potent fermentation. It's basically 500 proof, she said with a proud little grin. Barry smiled and took it, uncapping it and smelling the contents. I figured if anyone could use a drink tonight, it was you, Caitlin pointed out. Cisco nodded and held up his glass. Tibet. They clinked their glasses together and each downed the contents. Barry coughed and looked down at the vial in her hand. Wow, that hits you quick, Barry said, her voice strained. Caitlin grinned slightly. Are you buzzed? She asked, sounding delighted. Barry nodded, smiling slightly. Yeah, definitely. That's some good stuff. Then the pleasant feeling vanished, and she felt normal again. She sighed. And it's gone. Cisco chuckled. Work in progress, he suggested. Barry smiled at Caitlin. At least she could be sure these friends weren't going anywhere.